Hello and welcome back to the page. I'm your host, Ashriel Moore, the ambassador of the African Diaspora Collective right here in Israel. So for those who haven't been following me, this page is dedicated to highlighting the experiences of people of African ancestry in Israel, because people are not even aware of the fact that there are 500,000 people of African ancestry residing right here in Israel. This is 5% of the entire population here in Israel, right? So this page is dedicated to highlighting those experiences. The good, right? Because there are good experiences, although people may want to give a different impression, but there are also bad experiences, which we don't shy away from either, because obviously we are here to highlight these things, to bring them to the forefront so that people could be more aware of the realities of people of African ancestry here in Israel. But in addition to that, I was also dedicating the page to highlighting the experiences of people of African ancestry in this region called the Middle East, some people call it, the Arab world, some people call it, because we notice that people who are not residing in this area are totally oblivious of the realities of people of African ancestry in this region. I stopped that for a little while because I wanted to specifically highlight and continue to highlight over the last few videos the greatness and a lot of the good experiences that have been produced from the Village of Peace here in Israel, and also great things that other communities who reside here in Israel were involved in. But I received a bunch of messages, right, from people in regards to experiences that they're experiencing at the hands of Arab peoples in this region, and also a bunch of videos, links to videos on TikTok and other places where people wanted me to kind of share this with the world. So that's what I'm going to do. So let's watch this next video of this sister giving her experience, and then we'll discuss it afterwards.
So there's a picture that's going viral right now on here. It's a picture of my brother and his girlfriend, and the comments are sickening. The comments are sickening, and it's a lot of people from Algeria. My brother's girlfriend is from Algeria. She's half Algerian. So all those slurs that are being used in the comments reminded me of growing up in Egypt and how life was for me growing up in Egypt. A tragedy thing ever, like being a kid in Egypt and trying to survive and knowing what racism is at the age of 4 was not an ideal life for a child. I remember I would get scared to just leave out the house because I knew, like, as soon as I opened the door and step out of my house, I would literally have grown men throw stuff at us, and they were literally throughout our whole walk to school or to the grocery store, they would talk bad to us. They would call us animals. They would call us children of animals. Imagine being a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old, having somebody talk to you like this, and not even little kids, adults, grown adults, people that are old enough to be your grandparents will literally sit and call you names. And it's just like looking at that picture and looking at those comments reminded me so much of like Egypt. And it's just like, it's something that I always carried in my heart, because it's like, I didn't deserve this. I am literally a kid. I didn't choose to be in the skin that I'm in. God chose this for me, and you hate me just because I'm this complexion. You hate me so much as a grown person and throw things at me, calling me names like Hunga Bunga, Chocolata, and all type of names, all because I was born in the skin. So 2025, and to see people still using slurs and those Arabic slurs on the comment just because my brother is dating someone who's half Algerian is so sick. I actually got a chance to go back to Egypt last year, and no, I didn't want to go. I never wanted to go back to Egypt, but I have family over there that I went to go visit. But as soon as that flight landed, I cried because I thought I was done. I thought I was healed from all the trauma that I faced as a kid. But all that trauma just came back, and I was afraid. I knew as soon as I left that airport, all the racism, all the hate, all the negative energy was going to come to me again. And it did. When I went over there, the Egyptians were still the same. They were mean to me. They were mean to my family members, like literally walking down the street. We have to walk as a group, and they will call you names and stuff like that. And you couldn't sit and defend yourself, because if you defend yourself, all the Egyptians in the neighborhood would literally jump you.
So let's put these things in context first of all, right? Because most people have the tendency to say, no, these are just some individual isolated events that people have experienced. And so this doesn't really represent the society itself in these specific places. But I'm here to tell you that it does represent the society itself in these places, because these are recurring events, right? This is not just one here, one there. I have literally hundreds of these videos that people are sending me. I just don't really focus too much on them. But I have hundreds of these videos that people are sending and showing me, and obviously the information is all the way out there. It's no secret that there is anti-blackness in the Arab world. I don't know why people prefer not to discuss that. I mean, we all know about the experiences at the hands of Europeans. We all know about white supremacy, right? We all know about the experiences of the imperialism of the Europeans, of racism, of discrimination, of oppression at the hands of European people. We all know about colonization. We all know about the scramble for Africa. We certainly know about the transatlantic slave voyages. We all know about the history of slavery, of enslavement of African American people in America and in South America and other places. We all know about these things, and we discuss them quite often. And as a matter of fact, we also study them in school. I mean, most schools don't really discuss these things anymore, but it used to be where these things were actually discussed in school, right? So we couldn't forget about those experiences, and it is just as alive today as it was in the past. I mean, these things don't disappear. Neocolonialism is still here. We know about Europeans still holding on to, to the African continent and really continuing to shape it and to form it as it sees fit. And if these African countries do not cooperate, then they have all types of sanctions. Then they don't have access to funds. Then there's so many other internal issues, overthrow of the governments by the CIA and other intelligence agencies that are working overtime in these countries in order to place people in positions of power who are more favorable. We know about all of those things. We know about those things. But these things also exist at the hands of Arab people. Like, let's not forget that the idea of the enslavement of people of African ancestry starting in the 7th century was one that the Europeans borrowed. Europeans borrowed that idea from the trans-Saharan enslavement of people of African ancestry that had brought people of African ancestry to a whole lot of different areas in the Far East as well, in all of these areas that people refer to as the Middle East. Besides the people who are already indigenous to these places, a lot of people of African ancestry made it to these places because they were sold into slavery in these places by the Arabs to other Arabs in these other areas. We all know about the idea of the imperialist expansion of the idea of Arabism, Pan-Arabism, Islam as it was initially, right? The conquests, the Arab conquest we call it, that started in 635 AD, and it began to spread all the way from India all the way into Europe. And even today, you still have a bunch of countries that are de facto still colonized by the Arabs. All of North African countries, all of the the Western Asian countries, Lebanon, Syria, and all of these countries, these countries are de facto still currently colonized by Arab peoples. We all know that there was this concept of jizya that you needed to pay, right? You were second-class citizens in countries that were majority Muslim, and if you were not a Muslim, then you would need to pay this tax called the jizya. It was a high tax that people who are non-Muslim would need to pay. And these Arab peoples were the ones who were enforcing this idea, mainly on, as I said, people of African ancestry throughout the African continent and in other places in the world also. We all know about this idea of being a dhimmi, right? which is a second-class citizen in the countries, right? You can't, certain things you couldn't do, like you couldn't build houses, to a certain height. You couldn't build other monuments to a certain height. Certain places you couldn't go into, right? I mean, let's not act like we don't know about these things. We know that effectively today there is still a system of slavery that is active, right? Slavery is still operating in Mauritania, in Libya, in other places, also in the Gulf states, right? They just call it by a different name. They call it the kafala system. This system that allows people to be able to take the passports of those, they call them domestic workers, who they're bringing in to their countries to work, right? But then they take the passports. So now you're illegal. You can't, you don't have any documentation. So there's nothing that you could do. And then they just harass you. You don't get paid properly. You are being, you're being physically abused, emotionally abused. You're not, and there's nothing you can do. There's nobody you can talk to about this. You're stuck. You're stuck in the system, and they're passing you from person to person. They even have, markets, right? That they're able to, on these markets, through these apps, to sell people, to buy people. It's a slave auction. That's what it is. Well, and we know about these things happening, but it's like, especially people of African ancestry, we just kind of shy away from the conversation about these things, right? Now, I'm going to give people the benefit of the doubt who are not living in this area, that you're not really aware of how Arabian people, Arab peoples, refer and act towards people of African ancestry in this region. Why? Because it may be very different in other places in the world. Why it may be very different in other places in the world? One, because the systems are very different. So you have these liberal democratic systems in most of the Western countries that won't allow for the Arab peoples to be able to act towards people in the way that they actually act towards people in this region, where they have their own systems in place. No democratic systems, no liberal systems. So there's almost nothing you could do in a situation like that, because there are no checks and balances like there are in a lot of other states. The Arab peoples in those places are not the majority. And so because they're not the majority, then they're not really trying to enact and enforce the type of systems and culture that they have in their places on these. Now it's starting. You could start seeing now that they're these small specks of it starting to kind of to pop up in places where there is a significant amount of people of Arab ancestry who've migrated to these places, mainly in the UK and in Germany and in Spain and other places in the world, in Dearborn and in Michigan, in the United States. These places where you're starting to see a majority of these people coming, then you could be able to see that there's a change in the culture of the place, right? But for the most part, you're not going to be able to see that from far away, because they're not the majority and this is not their system. So they don't want to, or they can't really enforce a lot of things that they want to enforce there. Not to say they're not coming. They are coming with it, but it's just not possible at this very moment in time. And so what they do, especially as a result of the war that has been taking place here in Israel, between Israel and Hamas, right? So Hamas being another one of those terrorist organizations, right, that is a sister organization to Al-Shabaab, to Al-Qaeda Sahel, to Boko Haram, to all of these organizations that are operating on the African continent, totally destabilizing ISIS, totally destabilizing the African continent, right? But what they did was they took another marketing strategy to go and to speak directly to the people of African ancestry, specifically in America, to try and get them to support their cause by saying that there is something that we have in common. And so what they do is they use these buzzwords like colonization, oppression, and otherwise. It speaks to experiences that people of African ancestry have had and have still, right? and people, African people on the African continent, to appeal, right, to appeal to their conscience, to appeal to, you know, a soft spot inside of them, to cause these people to actually support their cause, when in actuality they're not even being presented the real truth, right? They've been presented a small portion of a larger reality, and they want that to just be the focus so that they can be able to gain the support of these communities, because they know how strong these communities are on the global scale. But I mean, it doesn't take a lot for you to be able to try and realize what's taking place with Afro-Palestinians in Gaza and in the West Bank. Some call it also Judea and Samaria. Well, I call it Judea and Samaria, but some call it the West Bank, for example. It doesn't take a lot for you to try and understand what their reality is. I've had a sister of mine, Amal, from Jericho, who came on, who spoke about her experiences, her and her family's experiences at the hands of, you know, the Palestinian Authority, where they wouldn't even provide to them fundamental amenities like water, like electricity, like the ability to go to school and all these things. And then they even take from them from whatever they managed to build, like these wells and stuff that they build there for running water. The governments even took some of those things. You know, they don't talk about, you know, the names that they're being called. And so it's a different reality when you actually live here. You experience these people. You know what the reality is. And then when you're looking out there and you're trying to understand how in the world could people of African ancestry support these people, whatever the case is, support these people when this is how they actually refer to people of African ancestry. This is how they act towards us. And I know people are going to say, yeah, but what about in Israel? People experiencing certain things. Yeah, in Israel, we speak out about it. We are very vocal about it. We are fighting these systems as well. The majority of people of African ancestry who reside in Israel didn't come to Israel looking for jobs, looking for handouts, looking for opportunities, and all those things. These people came here because we recognize this land as being part of our ancestry. Forget about the state and how we are treated by certain institutions or whatever. This is our land, in the same way people are experiencing certain things on their lands, wherever they are in the world, right? They don't get up and leave or whatever it may be. They fight until the system is overturned, or there is, you know, a system that is in place that'll be fair and square and treat everybody equally and properly according to, you know, what we know to be the standards of living for human beings, right? We're fighting in order to ensure that those things actually happen. So yeah, you're going to see some videos with people talking about their experiences in Israel. And you're going to also see videos of us out fighting and protesting and blocking the streets and going to court and other things as well in order to fight those systems. So just so you could be aware. But nonetheless, you have people who are supporting these organizations and these peoples with the belief in their heart and in their minds that these are some ancestral brothers and sisters of ours from the past that we've been working so closely together with for the purpose of bringing a new reality into being. But in actuality, they're just trying to use us, our experiences, our power on the world stage in order to be able to put them in a position that is more favorable. And then obviously, thank you very much. They're going about their business because their idea is not to work together for a more just society, a more just world. Their idea is to work in order to put themselves in position of domination, because that's what they wanted also. World domination is also a desire of theirs. So now you have these two powers. You have the European power and you have the Arab power that both are vying for world domination, both in their own ways. And they're just trying to use whatever pawns on the board that they could be able to use in order to put themselves in the most favorable position. But it's not to help us all to rise above our current conditions. So then people are not aware of that. So you're looking at things from the outside with this this Western lens, this Western view. You would never be able to understand the realities on the ground. So that's why people are so surprised that you have people of African ancestry, like asylum seekers from Sudan, that you're like, hold on, but you fled from Sudan and Israel hasn't been treating you the best. But then they want to join on to the IDF to fight against Hamas. And you're like, how is that even possible? Because Hamas represents the same things that they were actually running away from back in Sudan. So they recognize these same patterns about the things that these organizations have been doing back in the place that they came from. And so they're willing to join on to a power that's fighting that, not because they love Israel so much, but because they realize that this is the same reality that they've experienced. And so they want to fight now against that. That's why you have Ethiopians who are in the IDF, because they're saying that we need to do whatever we need to do to defend our land, because these people don't see us as people who are indigenous to this area, Ethiopian, Beta Israel Jews. And so they're willing to slaughter us just as they are with anybody else. We have, all these organizations, they see us in that very dehumanizing light. They don't see it. They see us as abid, as slaves, as dogs, as otherwise. If you don't align yourself with what they're trying to do, that's how they view you. You can say whatever you want to say. That's just how they view you. You will literally receive messages calling you these things: a pig, a slave, saying that you serve your master or whatever, because you're not aligning yourselves with them. But if you align yourself with them, now you're on the right side of history. Now you're a great person. Now you are the man. But if you don't align yourself with them, now you are the scum of the earth. You got to understand how these people are playing games. And so I'm going to start now again exposing the realities as they actually are by sharing the experiences of our people in this region, so the world could be more familiar, and they could now become, or they could be able to understand a little bit about how the minds of people of African ancestry who reside within this area, who've grown accustomed to the realities here, how we actually think, that is a decolonized thinking, right? In order for us to actually be able to realize the realities on the grounds here. Otherwise, if you're coming with a Western lens into this region, you're going to get sucked up. Easy, easy, easy. Because that reality does not fit here. We'll leave it there. Until next time, thank you so much for continuing to follow me on this journey. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Until next time, you take care.